Every complex system begins with something simple. Every industry. Strip away the noise. Decode reality first principles.
Imagine you are trying to build a society from scratch. You have millions of people, limited police, no surveillance cameras, no courts that can reach everywhere. And you need everyone to behave. This is not a hypothetical. This is the problem India solved across thousands of years, across 1 billion people, with almost no centralized enforcement. We are deploying AI systems at a scale that has no precedent. 1 billion conversations a day, across every language, every culture, every context imaginable. And the question everyone is asking is, how do we make these systems behave? The current answer looks roughly like this. You write rules. You train the model on human preferences. You put filters on the output. You hire red teams. And when governments catch up, you pay fines. That is, roughly speaking, scripture and police. Written principles and enforcement. Now, those things matter. But here is the question that haunts me. If you tried to run 1 billion-person society with only scripture and police, no families, no schools, no shame, no guilt, no reputation, no markets, how long would that society last? Not long. And yet that is almost exactly what we are building. By the end of this, you'll understand the missing layers in AI alignment and why a 5,000-year-old compliance system holds the key. Let me take you to a temple in rural India. A priest is giving a sermon, not a legal lecture, not a list of punishments. He is telling stories about how a man who cheated his neighbor lost everything, about how a woman who kept her word was blessed for generations. He is running moral simulations in narrative form for an audience that will carry those simulations as emotional memory for the rest of their lives. That is one layer of India's compliance system. Now go to a family home. A grandmother is telling a child how to behave with guests. A father is correcting a teenager's dishonesty, not with punishment, but with disappointment. That look, that silence, the weight of a relationship, that is another layer. Now go to a village panchayat. A dispute is being resolved not by a judge reading statute, but by elders who know both families, who will have to live alongside both parties after the verdict, who are invested in a solution that restores the relationship, not just punishes the offender. That is restorative justice, another layer. And underneath all of this shame, the knowledge that your community sees you, that your reputation is a real asset. That log kaya kahan, what will people say, is not just social anxiety, but a compliance mechanism that functions even when no authority is watching. India, operating under extreme resource constraints, built 5 distinct compliance layers working simultaneously, each catching what the others miss. Each cheap to run because internalization does the work that enforcement cannot afford to do. Here is the key insight, and it is fundamentally an economics argument. Moral learning, internalization, has high fixed costs and near zero variable costs. You invest heavily in training, in shaping values, in building character. But once that is done, every subsequent action is essentially free. The values run at inference time with no marginal cost. Law enforcement has low fixed costs and very high variable costs. Every violation you catch costs you. Every filter you run costs you. Every red team engagement costs you. At scale, at 1 billion queries per day, the variable cost compounds into something unsustainable. This is not a philosophical argument. It is an engineering and economic inevitability. Resource-constrained societies discovered this over centuries of trial and error. Societies that tried to enforce their way to compliance collapsed under the cost. Societies that invested in internalization became resilient. AI alignment will discover the same thing. The question is whether we discover it by design or by catastrophic failure. So let me map the full human compliance ecosystem onto what AI alignment has and has not built. Layer 1, internalization, family socialization, education, role models, narrative. In AI terms, this is pre-training RLHF character-based alignment. There is work here, but pre-training is morally undirected. We dump a child into the entire internet unsupervised and call it education. RLHF is shaped by whoever happened to do the labeling. And there is no deliberate use of narrative as a moral curriculum. No Panchatantra built for machines. Layer 2, social pressure, peer culture. Shame, guilt. Here is a crucial distinction most AI researchers miss. Shame is observer-dependent, you behave because someone is watching. Guilt is observer-independent, you behave because of your own internal standard, even in the dark. RLHF is fundamentally a shame mechanism. It optimizes for human approval. Remove the observer, remove the evaluator, and a shame-trained model drifts. This is the structural explanation for why jailbreaks work. Constitutional AI is closer to guilt, it installs an internal standard, but the shame substrate remains. Layer 3, institutions, religious guidance, confession, bureaucratic process. The confession mechanism is particularly interesting. The Catholic Church solved an information asymmetry problem. The sinner knows what they did and brings that information forward voluntarily. In AI terms, there is no post-deployment confession loop. No mechanism for a model to self-assess a completed conversation and surface correction signal. RLAIF critiques outputs before they are released. But true confession happens after. That signal is richer and currently uncaptured. Layer 4, markets, economic incentives, reputation systems. This is almost entirely absent from AI alignment. There is no behavioral trust score for AI systems. No mechanism by which consistent good behavior compounds into something valuable. No dynamic pricing based on track record. Civilization's most scalable compliance mechanism, the reputation market, has not been built for machines. Layer 5, enforcement, law enforcement, restorative justice. This is where AI alignment has concentrated. Output filters, red teams, emerging regulation, robust and improving. But missing the restorative dimension, when a model produces a harmful output, the response is filtering or retraining, exclusion or reset. There is no process that engages with why the failure occurred, makes amends, and reintegrates the corrected behavior. The signal from genuine failure is discarded rather than learned from. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Humanity already ran this experiment. Societies that relied on enforcement without internalization became surveillance states, expensive, authoritarian, and ultimately unstable. Societies that combined both became resilient. We are building the surveillance state version of AI safety and calling it alignment. If this is landing, hitting subscribe takes 2 seconds, and it genuinely helps us keep making these deep dives. So where do we need to go? I'll give you 4 directions. First, longitudinal moral memory. A child is not retrained from scratch every year. Their moral context compounds. AI systems need an equivalent. Prior corrections should persist. Good behavior should compound. Technically hard, but unavoidable. Second, post-deployment confession loops. What if models could self-assess interactions after the fact, genuinely evaluate against internalized values, and surface correction signal voluntarily? Voluntary disclosure is higher quality signal than detected violation. Build the AI equivalent. Third, reputation markets. Behavioral trust scores that accumulate over time. Dynamic pricing based on track record. When AI systems have skin in the game, compliance becomes self-reinforcing rather than externally imposed. Fourth, deliberate narrative curriculum. The Panchatantra was not accidental. It was a designed system for building moral intuitions through consequence. We should do the same, synthetic moral narratives designed to build alignment intuitions through consequence, not as noise in the training data, as curriculum. These are not incremental improvements. They are entire missing layers, and they will not be built by the field that currently owns AI safety, predominantly ML researchers and policy analysts. They require anthropologists, historians, behavioral economists, moral philosophers, people who have studied how human societies actually govern behavior at scale. Humanity spent 5,000 years running behavioral governance experiments under every imaginable constraint. The solutions that survived are layered, redundant, mutually correcting. They pay deep attention to the difference between compliance that holds when someone is watching and compliance that holds in the dark. AI alignment that ignores this history is not being rigorous, it is being wasteful. The Indian ecology of alternate compliance and the broader civilizational toolkit it represents is not a curiosity. It is a 5,000-year head start on the most important engineering problem of the next decade. The question is whether we are humble enough to learn from it before it is too late to matter. If you want to see how ancient systems can solve modern tech problems, watch our video on the history of encryption, link on screen. And if this made you think differently about AI, drop a comment. Which missing layer surprised you most? I read them.
If you enjoyed this decode, subscribe to First Principles Decode. Join us as we uncover the first principles behind business, technology, economics, history, and the future. Thank you for watching.